Here we go. We're rolling with week 9 and our 6-pack of picks for some of our favorite games on a really good schedule of week 9 contests around the NFL. We've got games in Germany. We've got NFC East showdowns. We've got Ravens, Seahawks, all that and more coming up. Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson, as always, at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Thanks to everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers out there, by the way, that are subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Hit the thumbs up if you're watching us on YouTube. Notification bell as well if you always want to know when the new podcasts arrive daily, breaking down this league we love. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Should we start 6:30 a.m. Pacific time?
Sure. That's a heavyweight fight. Let's do it.
Let's go to Germany. Mike McDaniel doing a number on the German media. I don't know if they get his humor as much as we like it over here in the States, but it's a great one. I mean, there's multiple. I'm going to go ahead and call Ravens Seahawks game of the week a little bit later on, but I mean, there are so many candidates for game of the week this week, and Dolphins Chiefs in Germany is absolutely a good one. This should be a good showcase, worldwide for the NFL, having these two teams having, the speed on the field that the Dolphins have and the best player in the sport in Patrick Mahomes on the other side. So who you got here? Dolphins, Chiefs. It looks like the Chiefs are favored by a measly 1.5 points in this one.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. And it looks like Jalen Ramsey's 100% back. I would imagine we'll see him on Kelsey some, but they're more of a zone team. I mean, like last week, he just kind of hung in his zone. Kansas City's D, to me, is really the story, though. I mean, they're really good up front. The Dolphins' O-line worries me. I think the secondary of Kansas City, plus Spagnuolo, throwing some things at Tua, can at least slow the Dolphins down to some degree. I'm pretty sure Miami went over several days, though, before Kansas City, which I think is a big deal in these overseas games, and that favors Miami, in my opinion. But only 1.5. I think Kansas City bounces back heavily. I mean, during the Reid-Mahomes era, when they lose, the following week usually does not go well for the opponent, to say the least. And I also think Miami is yet to prove that they can beat the heavyweight. When they played, yeah.
That's where I was going. It's the thing that really jumps out. And Miami with their speed, and they've run some teams off of the field, including the Broncos in week 3, putting up 70 points. And we've seen it the last couple of weeks, big plays to Tyreek Hill. But they lost to the Eagles 2 weeks ago. And they lost to the Buffalo Bills, who actually aren't even playing that great of football. They played great football that day. And the Bills beat them by a lot, 48-20. And so, playing away from home, away from Miami, and they really haven't beat many good teams, if any good team. Swept the Patriots, which is great for the Miami Dolphins. That's something that they haven't done a lot in the last couple of decades. But I'm gonna reserve crowning the Dolphins as that team until they can go and beat a team like the Chiefs. So awesome matchup. I can't wait. I'm mad that it's so early in the morning for me here on the West Coast.
You guys,
can roll out of bed and have breakfast at a normal time and watch this game, Matt. But I don't know if I want to set my alarm for it. But man, I don't want to miss much of this game either.
No, and frankly, I mean, you can. So my partner with my Steelers show, we're the Steelers play tonight, so he has the rare opportunity to just kind of sit back and watch game after game after game. And he was laying out the quadruple header he's going to watch, like on the national feed. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I mean, you start with this one, end with the Sunday nighter, Ravens, Seattle in between. So, boy, I mean, there's a quadruple header for everyone to watch nationally. It's going to be really good this week.
the Sunday, Monday prime timers are not in our 6-pack, but along with our 6-pack of Sunday picks on today's show, we are going to end with our preview of Thursday night. So definitely want to get your input here on the Steelers going tonight against the Will Levis led, right? Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
So,
we'll get to it with a little teaser there. I've done a lot of Levis homework.
So we're both taking the Chiefs here, giving up 1.5.
Yes.
How do you beat the Chiefs? It happened last week by not a good football team, right? So if you're just judging common opponents, the Broncos beat the Chiefs, and the Dolphins spanked the Broncos worse than any team has spanked any team this year, put up 70 points on them. Now, the Broncos looked a little bit different, 5 weeks, 6 weeks ago than they do right now. But is that an indicator at all for you, just with that common opponent and seeing how different those games looked?
I'm not a believer in that. I mean, what's that math principle we learned in 3rd grade? Is that the transitive property or whatever? If X is bigger than Y, then Y is bigger than Z, then X is bigger than Z or whatever.
Right.
I don't think that necessarily works because years of doing power ranks, I'd always hear that. Well, this team beat this team and then that team beat this team, but you have them too low. I'm like, I don't know that applies. I think a key to beating the Chiefs, though, is giving the best player on the planet in a pretty intense flu and causing 5 turnovers. And I'm not sure the
might have had something to do with it. And Matt, I wouldn't be doing this job for a living if I was good at transitive properties and math class.
Whatever it was. Right.
You know what's funny is I was actually on the math and science team when I was in elementary school. And about 4 years later, I was like borderline flunking out of high school. So that's
wow.
That took a turn for the worse for sure.
Yeah.
When I started to have to do like work at home, I'm like, wait a second, what? I can't leave school at school anymore and just like figure things out.
Found other interests in life too, probably.
That's right. How about this? We got some rookies going and some not the rookies we expected to be playing at this point in the season. The Minnesota Vikings are going to start BYU rookie quarterback Jaren Hall, and it's against the Atlanta Falcons, who are starting a different quarterback than we expected there as well. And Taylor Heineke now has the job with Desmond Ridder benched. We've got the Vikings at the Falcons. Falcons at home, favored by 4.5.
This spread to me is perfect. I'm pretty sure Hall is going to be the 8th starting rookie quarterback already this year. I mean, we know the names, but also like O'Connell and Teabag and all these guys. I mean, so it's getting pretty crazy. He's probably just holding on the fort for a week for Josh Dobbs. Heineke, who knows how long he'll keep this job, but I do think he makes the Falcons a noticeably better team. Grady Jarrett being out doesn't make me thrilled with this pick, but I think I'm leaning Atlanta. I just think a professional quarterback with those 3 weapons in Atlanta should do a lot of damage against the Vikings D.
How about this? Jaren Hall, he's 25. He'll turn 26 before the end of the season. He's obviously, BYU, you get a lot of those that are old for rookies. He's especially old, turning 26 before the Super Bowl is over. I don't know exactly when his birthday is, but I know it is coming up at some point in the next 100 days or so. And so how about this note? 21 of the Jaren Hall is older than 21 of the 52 players on the Vikings active roster.
Wow. I know they're a kind of young team, but wow.
One of those is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson won't be catching passes from him because he's on IR. That would help a rookie quarterback. Justin Jefferson's over a year. He's like a year and a half younger than Jaren Hall.
Wow. Pay that man is what I interpret that for Jefferson. I wonder if we ranked all the quarterbacks starting this week in terms of only age. I bet he's like 15th. And it's his first career start.
Yeah.
And he's got to be older than
expected. But I think, as far as we've seen this recently, and we see it a lot, did you play a lot of college football? And are you, an older, at this position, being older and being an experienced, quarterback and human being is helpful. So maybe that helps him keep his head above water here. And we'll see what how much of a dip that offense takes. But it was the passing game and how well Kirk Cousins was playing. I mean, it's got to be a big dip here, right? And Taylor Heineke actually helped and not hurts on the other side with, I think, the Falcons offense, even though, maybe not explosive, but I think he's better than Ridder at this point for helping you collect W's if you're the Falcons. So I got to give up the points and take the Falcons.
That's my thought too. And one team got better, I think, at quarterback, and one got much worse.
Next, we've got tons more to get to in our Sunday 6-pack of favorite games. We've got what I'm going to call game of the week. I didn't run that by you, Matt, but I'm going to go Seahawks Ravens game of the week. We got Giants Raiders, some notes on that Seahawks Giants trade with Leonard Williams, Commanders Patriots, Bears Saints, and of course the Thursday Nighter Titans at Steelers next. Today's episode of Peacock Williamson is brought to you by DoorDash. When I think football, I think food. It's just that simple. You got to have a spread. You got to be prepared when you're getting ready for the game. Sometimes that means cooking out. Sometimes that means tailgating. Sometimes it means grilling out. Sometimes it means just sitting there waiting for a timeout and calling DoorDash and getting those pizza, wings, soda, burgers, whatever it is you want in your spread, DoorDash, and get it all delivered without missing the game. By the way, DoorDash, you can get retail and groceries if you want to go that route and you want to cook your own spread for football Sunday while you're watching these 6-pack of games that Matt and I are picking today. My local favorites, something like Super Duper Burger is what I like to DoorDash for Matt. I know in Pittsburgh, Permanis and getting the sandwich, getting the slaw, DoorDash, and you can get up to 50% off. Up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23. It's subject to change. Terms apply. Again, don't forget to use code LOCKED23 for 50% off up to $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change. Terms apply. Here we go. We've got the Seattle Seahawks game of the week at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens favored by 6. This is game of the week for me because I think early in the season, with how competitive these divisions are for the Seattle Seahawks, who just leapfrogged the 49ers, can get a little breathing room with the Niners on a bye right here if they beat a team like the Seahawks or like the Ravens. The Seahawks are 5-2, Ravens are 6-2, and Baltimore in the North, they've still got to win a whole lot more games to be where they need to be and try to win that division. Steelers are playing tonight, can get closer to the lead in that division if they beat the Titans, and they are favored. You've got the Bengals playing some really good ball. I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. We're going to wait till tomorrow on that one with the Cleveland Browns. But it's a pretty important game for a Week 9 game, I think, with two teams that are in opposite conferences. That's why I like this game a lot. I think it's too many points because I think it's more evenly matched than the 6.
Yeah, I'm taking the points for sure. I mean, Pete Carroll's teams, more so than any West team that I'm aware of, travel really well coming east here, and the early stuff doesn't seem to bother his teams. Whatever formula he uses seems to work. However, I do think there's something real about Lamar having like a 95% win percentage against the NFC. I mean, he's just so unique that if you don't play him often, or if you only see him every 4 years, you don't really know what you're getting into, and you can't prepare for him during the week. But I think both these defenses are playing really well. And boy, was I wrong on the Ravens defense. I mean, we do so much AFC North here on my Steelers show. I thought of the 8 units in the North, 4 offenses, 4 defenses, the Ravens defense would be last. It might be first. I mean, it's just so well coached and they scheme things up there. I think they're leading the league in sacks, even though they don't really have any good pass rushers. I mean, I think that kind of stuff's super impressive. But I love what Seattle's D is doing too. And now you have Leonard Williams. Just thought of this. Poor Leonard Williams gets on a plane in New York, I guess, Wednesday morning, goes to Seattle for a day or two, turns around and goes to Baltimore. Like, why don't I take the train to Baltimore and we'll meet you there, guys? Yeah,
can you take that somewhere else?
Right.
How about this? And you mentioned the defenses. Shout out to our listener Tim on Twitter who sent this to us. And a little cherry picking because it's recency. But look, these two teams are playing, and they're both playing good football right now. Since week 4, the Seattle Seahawks have the number 1 defense in points per game allowed, 12.5 points per game. The Ravens have the second best defense since week 4 in points per game allowed, 13.2. Yards per play, Seahawks number 1, Ravens number 2 in the entire NFL, 4.1 and 4.2 yards per play since week 4. Number 2 in the NFL, Seahawks yards per game allowed, number 1, Baltimore Ravens, 267, 274 yards per game allowed, number 1 and 2 in the NFL since week 4. And sacks per game that you mentioned, the Ravens are number 2 in the NFL, 4 sacks per game since week 4. And the Seattle Seahawks, number 1, 5.3 sacks per game. So points per game allowed, yards per game allowed on defense, yards per play, sacks per game. Since week 4, the Seahawks and Ravens are either 1 or 2 in all those stats.
That's bonkers. How about this Ravens stat? I posted this 5 days ago. So, yes, it still stands. They haven't played since then. First quarter point differential. The Ravens are plus 49. After the first quarter, in the first quarter, they've outscored their opponents by 49 points. I mean, that's a Lamar Harbaugh thing year after year. I mean, they always go into halftime with a lead. That's crucial to me for Seattle, especially on the road. But I still like the points here. It seems like way too many.
I mean, that's so important. Get the lead early, make the other team one-dimensional, and then that's when you start collecting sacks.
Yep. That's your Niners problem now.
Right. And so they didn't have the lead in the second half of the last 3 games. We're like, oh, no, what do we do now? Front runner. Yeah, people call them the Niners front runners right now. But,
I get it.
Everyone's a front runner in the NFL. It's tough if you don't have the lead. And if a really good team, really well-coached team, can pin their ears back and make you one-dimensional.
I mentioned that Ravens D, and they are really, really good. But I liked how Seattle handled the one defense I might put ahead of them in the Browns. I thought that they did really, really well. And getting those 2 tackles back, I think, goes a long way for Seattle. They're a good team.
You mentioned Leonard Williams, too. A note here as we transition into the Giants at Raiders on Sunday. Leonard Williams talked about because we treat it like it's Madden sometimes. It's like, oh, how come you didn't do a trade, or you should have traded for this guy, or, this guy over here. These are human beings, and sometimes these teams spend a lot of time together, and there's a family atmosphere sometimes, and sometimes that means you want a guy out and you don't like him having him around. But I don't think Leonard Williams is one of those. And so I loved hearing Leonard Williams talk about the trade going from New York to Seattle, and that the GM Joe Shane talked to him about it and said, "Look, here, we're not shopping you, but some teams are calling, and there's a team in Seattle that's winning, and we're not right now, so some self-awareness by the New York Giants, knowing where their season's going. It's like, hey, do you want to go play for a team that might be playing deep into January, a playoff team? And so I love hearing those stories, because it's not just like, all, hey, we traded you, see you later, get on a plane. They're human beings, and it makes it more difficult in a lot of ways, but it's not as easy as just saying, okay, we accept, and we're going to ship this guy, and he's going to move his entire family across the country. I like when I hear stories about GMs being upfront with their players, letting them know what's going on. And when you do right by a player and let them pick, if there's a couple of teams that have similar, a similar offer, if you're trying to trade a guy, and even if you get a little bit less, you send the player to the place that he wants to go.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, I keep thinking about Moneyball, where he just goes in there and tells them you're traded. Boom. I mean, like, I think those days are probably done, because everybody knows everyone, and you don't want to get that reputation as a cold group. And I'm sure it feels good that some team wants you. I mean, you phrase it that way. Hey, Seattle really wants you. Oh, that feels great. But I also have a 7-year-old daughter who I now have to move across country, to pull her out of school, or I'm going to leave without her. And even just thinking of Leonard Williams, he got drafted by the Jets, signs with the Giants, probably doesn't even move his house, I mean, just stays in New York.
Yeah, I assume I don't know if he lives in New York or New Jersey. I assume he lives somewhere in New Jersey, or somewhere outside of Manhattan. But you have a family, and he's been there for years in that market, in that area. So that's not easy. As far as this game, Giants Raiders, I mean, 2 teams that aren't in a great spot. It's Daniel Jones, right? It's Daniel Jones versus Aiden O'Connell, it looks like, this week. With the Raiders, short week, fired everybody, fired play callers. Like, how can you have that team favored? I know they're at home. They're favored by 1.5. The Giants have been awful, but at least they're going to have their veteran quarterback back. They traded, they're in sell mode. They know they're not good. I mean, what an awful game this is going to be. This is the anti-game of the week here, but interesting. And I think I have to take points here. Maybe Antonio Pierce as interim head coach is, but you don't have this. How do you get ready for a game, short week? Everyone's fired. Maybe they're playing extra hard, but rookie quarterback, who's calling plays? How do you install? Like, I don't know. It seems like something that you might not get that interim coach bump in the short term, but it sounds like Vegas thinks that they will get that interim short-term bump. I'm not buying it. I'm taking the points in the Giants.
Me too. I agree with everything exactly you said. And I'm not an experienced or smart enough bettor to know this, but I bet the betting public thinks interim head coach bump. Like you're going to get a spark for at least 1 week with a new coach. But like you said, short week, very tons of turmoil all week. How long do you prepare? And hey, you and I aren't the biggest Daniel Jones fans around, but he's a lot better than Aiden O'Connell. I mean, he's coming back at least, and they'll hand the ball to Barkley a million times. They won't ask DeVito not to throw, I mean, so
right.
You still got to block Dexter Lawrence,
I would get it if it was DeVito at
exactly.
Right. But, Daniel Jones back. And to be honest with you, I don't know that Daniel Jones is necessarily better than Aiden O'Connell. I just don't know enough about Aiden O'Connell. And they fired their offensive coordinator too. So it's not like it's the same play caller. And so how do you install that? I don't know. Maybe they do get that bump, but I would stay far away from the Raiders right now. And they weren't a good team to begin with. So I don't know, if they're fired up, I don't know if they have the talent there aside from one guy on each side of the ball. Is that enough? Aiden O'Connell, does he just drop back and chuck it all day to Devontae Adams, an angry Devontae Adams? Is Max Crosby extra angry, and make life?
I'm sure he'll have 6 sacks, but, right.
Yeah. All right, next we got Commanders, Patriots, Bears, Saints, and Thursday nighter Titans at Steelers in our Week 9 6-pack. As you're watching all these games on Sunday, open up the PrizePicks app and why don't you play along with them and have as much fun as you will have playing daily fantasy sports this season. Oh yeah, and while you're having all that fun, you can win up to 25 times your money playing PrizePicks. Super easy. You select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. And how about this now? With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce together at 10.5 combo of 3 points made and receptions. Right. So now you're watching multiple sports and playing along with not only the NFL, but the NBA. You can play along with some famous PrizePicks players as well, like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, and play against them as well. So tons of fun ways to play at PrizePicks. And you can get a little bonus using our promo code at prizepicks.com. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL or download the app and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Here we go. We got the Commanders in sell mode now. This is officially, Matt, as of this week, a rebuilding franchise. The Washington Commanders at the New England Patriots. Patriots at home favored by 3. And what's interesting here is I've heard some people, and I think you've actually talked about it as a nice fit, as potentially the head coach of the Patriots that the Washington Commanders are playing against, potentially being the Washington Commanders' long-term head coach as early as next year. Speaking of trades, and maybe they needed those extra draft picks to do a coach trade. So we'll see what happens there in the offseason. But what do you think about Commanders Patriots this week?
I bring that up. I mean, football historians probably don't even remember this, but that's how Vince Lombardi finished his career. I mean, he went to Washington and took over the whole franchise and was the czar, and it was totally in control. And I don't know, maybe Belichick could do something like that. I don't know. But Washington was a bottom 5 defense with Sweat and Young, and now they're gone. And I mean, I know the Patriots offense isn't daunting, but it's showing some signs of life lately. The O-line's playing better, and Ramondre and Mac Jones are okay. I wish this was less than 3, though. I mean, should the Patriots really be favored by anybody over by 3 points? That's hard for me. And I like what Hal did, and they have weapons. So I'm going to take the points here.
I hate focusing so much on this now, but as you were talking and mentioning, now that I think about it, you got to trade your 4-3 ends because Belichick's going to come over. You have more of an odd front, more of a combo front. So you need the stand-up rushers a little bit more. Maybe even you play Allen a little bit more on the outside with Payne inside. maybe that's why they had to get rid of their defensive ends. Okay, I'm starting to see it there.
They need a Vrabel and McGinnis, and
all of our games in the 6-pack and Thursday Night Football, all the favorites are at home, so we have no home dogs to bet on this week. I'm taking a lot of points, and I think I'm going to take points in this one because even though they don't have any defensive ends, I'm not super worried about that. I hate what's going on with the Patriots more than I hate what's going on with the Commanders. And in an ugly game like this that could be low scoring, I'm going to take points, and so I'm going to take that field goal and take the Commanders.
Me too.
We've agreed on all of them. Are we going to agree on Bears at Saints? The Saints are favored by 8.5 over Tyson Agent and the Chicago Bears, who were buyers, surprisingly, at the deadline. They did not sell Jalen Johnson. They brought in Sweat from the Commanders. And Justin Fields won't be playing. He's still week to week, but Montez Sweat will be on the field. That's going to help. That's the biggest weakness on that team right now, maybe, aside from what they're doing on offense with the quarterback. But as far as like coming into the year, we knew it was going to be that way. Sweat's got, I think Sweat has more sacks than the entire defense combined. Something crazy. Like they have not gotten, or all their edge guys at least, they have not gotten any production with outside rush.
No, it's a horrible position for them.
Is it enough to beat the Saints? 8.5 is a lot of points. I hate this one.
Yeah, and I would guess Sweat at least is a third down rusher type, designated pass rush guy. I just don't know the New Orleans is going to get into third and long very often. I mean, I just think this is going to be tons of Kamara. Keep it close to the vest. I still like the Saints defense. I think they control this game to no end, but that might not be an 8.5-point victory. I mean, The defensive-minded head coach will be very happy to just sit on the ball, deflate the ball late in the game while the Bears are throwing. I smell backdoor cover in a big way. I'm still going to lay the points, though. Okay. I wouldn't touch it. I'm not touching it.
This isn't me having tons of confidence in the Bears, but maybe they do have a little extra giddy up thinking, man, okay, we got better, not worse at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the message that sends, even if maybe I don't necessarily agree with it fully with what their plan is in Chicago. But it's just too many points for me in what could be an ugly contest and a low scoring contest. So I'm going to take all those points, and Saints by a touchdown, and you still win that backdoor cover. And so I am going to take the Bears. So at least we have one disagreement here on our picks. And we got to finish up with your Steelers, Matt, who are hosting the Tennessee Titans. Is Will Levis going to roll into Pittsburgh and throw 4 touchdowns?
I think not.
Not.
Yeah, I mean, very impressive debut, without question. But Grady Jarrett got hurt in that game. They played a ton of soft zone. And to the Titans' credit, what they did with them was like 25% of Levis's throws were behind the line of scrimmage, and about 25% of them were just bombs away. And he made, it was not a lot of intermediate quarterbacky stuff. It was either get it out or just chuck it up the nuke.
Yeah.
And now I think that there's at least a book on them and a short week on the road. I don't think you can install all that much more. I mean, this time last week we were talking about, I think Levis is going to start, but Willis is going to be in there for a fair amount too. And I mean, that probably goes out the window, but that was only, a week ago. And short week on the road is brutal. And frankly, I think the Titans O-line is in for a really, really long night. Cam Hayward comes back, and the edge guys were already a problem for the Steelers. Minka's out. That's big. I could see Hopkins doing some things, but Tomlin's record, home night games, I mean, like Monday nights and Thursday nights, is unbelievable. His record versus rookie quarterbacks is unbelievable. I mean, it's an awful environment, I think, for Levis to walk into.
Levis is going to have a bigger challenge than he had last week.
Exactly.
And he wasn't perfect either. Does Hopkins catch everything that was 50-50? My question though is, and I love how aggressive that's one thing that I really, really liked about Levis. In that
he's not bashful.
Is he's not afraid. He did not wilt. That's one thing that you see sometimes from rookie quarterbacks is there's no confidence there, and they're afraid to let it rip and kind of seeing things slowly. And I thought I didn't think it looked too fast for him. I love the game plan of short and long because I think that's the strength. It's like, okay, we're going to scheme it up for you to get it out of your hands quick, and we're going to avoid pass rush that way. And then let it fly. Let's take some shots. You've got a guy that can rebound everything back there. No Minka. So that's a key for me, and I want to hear it from you. How does that secondary match up against Hopkins specifically?
Well, first of all, too, they also used an obscene amount of play action last week. So I mean, the ball's going to go to Hopkins and Henry, and no surprise there.
Right.
There's also an obscenely low over/under in this game. I mean, it's like 36 or 38 or something really bad. I mean, it's Steelers offense is not exactly a juggernaut, and that Titans front is good. I actually wrote an article about Minkah this week. What does his loss mean? You can find it on my Twitter timeline, but I just called him a fireman. I mean, the way they've been using Minkah, like when he got here, you play deep middle, you be Ed Reed, you be Earl Thomas, and I thought he was the best in the league at that. Now he just puts out fires. Well, can't cover Mark Andrews, Minkah, do that. We need a blitzer out of the slot, Minkah, do that. There's a fire over there, go put that out. The joke I always make is he's mowing Curly in the boat, where a leak springs up and you plug it, and then another one springs up, and I mean, that's how the Steelers secondary is terrible right now, except for him and Porter Jr. They have two good guys in the secondary.
By the way, all of our lines that we reference here are coming from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. 2.5 Steelers are favored right now at home. I think this is another game where I'm going to take the road team and take the points, Matt, because Thursday weirdness. It's a low over/under. I think the most telling stat at the end of the game is Nuke Hopkins touchdowns versus TJ Watt sacks. Who has more?
I hear you. Another number that might persuade you a little bit. I'm taking the Steelers here. I think they win by 3 or more. The Titans are allowing a ton of outside production, receivers outside the numbers. And Deontay and Pickens never really go to the slot. I mean, they should, but they don't. I could see both or one of them having a blow-up day today, too.
It's going to be a fun week, man. I think the Thursday nighter is going to be good. I can't wait to see if this Steelers team can keep it up. I want to see Will Levis again. I have a feeling.
I'm psyched to watch Levis, yeah.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's not going to be as easy. So, I know Tennessee fans are really excited right now, but it's a process. It's a process with rookie quarterbacks, and we'll see what that looks like in week number 2. But promising start to his career. Tons of great games. More of those picks we will make on tomorrow's show. We've got Cowboys, Eagles. We've got what else we have? I don't know. We have a ton of great games.
Oh, it's a great slate. Yeah.
So, and of course, we'll break down everything we saw on Thursday Night Football as well tomorrow to finish up the week. And we will talk to you then right here. Peacock and Williamson.